Welcome, everyone. Welcome to your Florida Man Friday episode. In this episode, we're talking about a couple who were arrested after their children were found living in horrible conditions. Before we begin, if you're new here, my name is Kai, and this is Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide, the Friday edition. I also want to let you know that this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lambs and Patreon, patreon.com/Love and Murder. If you want to support Love and Murder, then head on over to patreon.com/Love and Murder and become a sponsor of Love and Murder. Now let's get into this Florida Man Friday. In January of 2024, Devin and Tawnya White were both arrested and charged with negligent child abuse after they got a call from the Florida DCF, which is the Department of Children and Families, of possible child neglect related to environmental hazards. This happened in Alturas, Florida. In this house that was reported for environmental hazards, lambs, there were two children living there. One was 7 years old and one was just 7 months old. There were also 5 dogs at the residence, and 4 of them were kept inside. The funny thing is, DCF called on Tawnya and Devin White, and Tawnya was an employee of the DCF for 13 years. And at the time of her arrest, it had been confirmed that she was still working there. However, obviously, because she was arrested and the reason why she was arrested, they did fire her. The reason the DCF even called the police is because they had been trying to see the inside of Tawnya and Devin's house since earlier on in January, and they had been, quote, uncooperative with allowing anyone inside the residence. So even before that, the DCF had first contacted them and had given them 19 days to clean the house. But after that, the DCF reported that the condition of the house remained, quote, unhealthy and unsafe for the children, which prompted them to do a return visit so they can assess if the house had been cleaned. And because Tawnya and Devin wouldn't let them in, that prompted the call to the police. When police arrived at the house, they observed, quote, overgrown grass and junk and debris scattered about the property outside of the house. They hadn't even gotten into the house yet. Quote, the interior of the home was deplorable to include moldy furniture, stagnant water, junk debris, and piles of dog feces. Oh my God. One of the police who interviewed Tawnya on the front lawn of her home, because I mean, to be honest, who's staying in that house? I'm not. I would pull everybody out of that house to interview them on the front lawn. Ew. Anyways, when questioning Tawnya, she said that Devin had previously been involved in a car accident, which in turn limited his mobility and, as a consequence to that, limited his ability to help her keep up the house. I mean, come on. You literally only have 2 children. You couldn't keep the house clean? Dog feces all over the house, moldy furniture, stagnant water. What does that have to do with him being in a car accident? You have 2 children to think about. She continued on saying that she worked a full-time job with the DCF and was trying to keep her house clean, but she was struggling to do it alone. Ma'am, do you know how many single parents, whether it's mothers or fathers, there are out there? Are you serious? You're blaming that on having a moldy couch, on having piles of dog poop all over your house when you have a 7-month-old and stagnant water? What is that about? You couldn't throw out water? Are you kidding me right now? So basically when the police literally probably, I'm saying probably because they didn't really say this, said the exact same thing I said to her, she came back and said that, well, the baby doesn't leave the master bedroom unless he's actually carried out, which doesn't matter because when you have piles of poop around your house, when you have stagnant water, it doesn't matter if the baby's being carried, and especially the moldy furniture that's in the air. So it doesn't matter if the baby was crawling or carried. And I have a feeling your master bedroom wasn't much cleaner than the rest of the house. So don't act like your master bedroom was pristinely clean. And so the 7-month-old baby was out there. And what happened to the 7-year-old? He doesn't need to be clean too? Well, when deputies did see the 7-month-old, they said that the baby appeared to be, quote, delayed in his development due to being confined in a bassinet all day. And the reason why, she said, was because the home wasn't safe for him to be around, crawling around and trying to learn to walk and everything like that. So clean your freaking house. Or you have him in your room. To you, that's clean enough. You didn't have him on the floor in your room either. And the baby was such in developmental delay that the 7-month-old wasn't even crawling yet. So they asked Tawnya if they could take pictures of the residence, and with her permission, pictures were taken inside and outside of the home so that they could document the condition. And in the pictures, you can see that there's trash, there's knives all over the place, scattered all on the floor. They have pictures of the dog poop in various stages of decomposition, lambs. And a strong smell of dog urine was noticeable throughout the home. I don't even want to know what they smelled like, because that stuff permeates into your clothes and your skin, and you will stink as much as your stinky house does. Oh my God. And these pictures I will have in the Patreon. So if you want to see these pictures, patreon.com/love and murder. Oh my God. In several areas of the house, there was also exposed plywood flooring with visible stains from new and old animal urine and feces. The kitchen counters, the sink, and the stove had clutter all over it. And literally there was no place for food to be prepared or even eaten. Investigators called out the Polk County Fire Rescue, so they came out and then decided, with conditions like this, we need to do an air quality test. And they found that the ammonia levels in the house were 20 parts per million, even though the front door had been open for an hour before they even came and tested. 20 parts per million. Ammonia shouldn't even register. That's how much, because I know you're probably saying, so what does that mean? Ammonia shouldn't even register. Like maybe go to your bathroom and put the thing in the toilet to register ammonia. They had the house open for an hour and it was still that much. So like I said, they questioned Tawnya, and then when deputies questioned Devin, he took the blame for, quote, the conditions of the residence. And he said he took the blame because he wasn't able to help clean and he didn't want to ask anybody for help. He also told deputies that both of the children don't play inside of the house and both are, quote, confined to the master bedroom. So if the baby was in a bassinet all day, where was the 7-year-old? Quote, the conditions inside the house show a clear lack of proper food, nutrition, clothing, shelter, and supervision that a prudent person would consider essential for the well-being of their children. So, with all of that, both Tawnya and Devin were arrested. That is sickening, disgusting, and I wonder where the children went. Did the children go with other family members, or are they now in child services? That is so crazy and so nasty. And don't give me that you work full time and you're trying to upkeep a nasty house like that. You can upkeep your house. It probably won't be in model pristine shape, but oh my God, you could do way better than 20 parts per million of ammonia in your freaking air, moldy couches, and stagnant water. Now, your poll question is, do you believe that employees of child welfare agencies like Tawnya was should face harsher penalties for child neglect due to their professional background? So you can answer that in WhatsApp, murderandlove.com/WhatsApp. You can answer that on Spotify, or you can even answer that in our private Facebook group. Whichever one is more comfortable for you, that is your poll question. And speaking of poll questions, let's get into your previous comments. So, last week's Florida Man Friday was a man allegedly raped and murdered his girlfriend's 13-year-old daughter. And my question was, do you think Stefan is the cause of Maddie's murder, or do you think there's someone else on the loose? And 100% of y'all in the poll said, of course it's Stefan. Juliet said, it's always the stepfather. To which I replied to her, Juliet, I'm going to tell everybody what I said. It's not always the stepfather. Sometimes it's the father. Sometimes it's the mother. Sometimes it's the stepmother. Sometimes it is the brother, the sister, the grandfather, the grandmother, or even a complete stranger. I mean, this day and age, you can't generalize with that. It could be anybody. Hannah Page said, I think he did it. I've listened to other podcast episodes about the case, and what they have so far was the quote factory reset thing on his phone is super suspicious. Yeah. I mean, like I said, how many steps do you have to go through to factory reset? She continues, it reminds me of someone I knew who would delete his side of the text and claim that, quote, his phone broke and deleted only his part of the text in an argument, conveniently making his ex look crazy. And I told her that I can't believe he pulled the old my phone broke excuse, because your phone broke and only your texts were deleted, not the other person's. Really? Sarah Maza said, I think he did it. I think he was a predator that had his eyes on her the entire time, which I agree. That's a possibility, and that could be why he got with the mom to get to the daughter. Frickin' sick bastard. Gypsy said he is totally responsible for her death. He has been violating her for years. I can't see how the mother couldn't see the signs. It wasn't mentioned, but either she was pregnant or she was going to tell. Oh, wow. That's what you think? I mean, that would totally fit the bill. Gypsy, you're onto something there. That would totally fit the bill because they didn't have a motive. He didn't say anything. And I know if it comes out that she was pregnant, electric chair. I think he would get the electric chair. That's probably why he's keeping so tight-lipped. All right. And in the previous Florida Man Friday, that one was 23-year-old woman posed as a 14-year-old to molest kids. And I asked you, should Alyssa have been denied bail from the onset given the severity of her alleged crimes? And 85% of y'all said, of course, and 14% said, no, they did it right. I am more siding with the first part. I mean, everybody's entitled to what they think. I'm not knocking you, everybody who said no, but I more think that, yeah, they should have initially denied her bail and just posed her as a flight risk. This is what I'm thinking. But then again, you know, they might not have seen any reason for her to be labeled as a flight risk. So, I mean, the ones in the no slot could be right as well. So that is all I have for you for this week's Florida Man Friday. Don't forget to answer the poll question so I could read your comments and or your answers to the poll in next week's Friday's episode. The poll question was, do you believe that employees of child welfare agencies should face harsher penalties for child neglect due to their professional background? Join my WhatsApp to answer this poll if you can't get to the Spotify, and this is just an easier way for you to answer the poll questions and see extra cases that I do post there, as well as episode reminders. murderandlove.com/WhatsApp. That is all I have for you in this Florida Man Friday, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.